Lesson 15 in the book starts with an exploratory challenge. It states at the end of this morning's news segment, the local television station highlighted area pets that need to be adopted. The station posted a specific website on the screen for viewers to find more information on the pets shown in the adoption process. The station producer checked the website 2 hours after the end of the broadcast and saw that the website had 24 views. 1 hour after that, the website had 36 views. Now, with this being an exploratory challenge, feel free to work with the person sitting next to you to try to solve before you check to see if you did it correctly. That means you work with someone, you'll pause the video, you'll try to do the next step in the problem. Once you guys finish it, hit play, see if you did it correctly, make the corrections you need. Then again, pause the video, moving on to the next exercise, trying to solve that on your own, playing it again to check your answer with me. So, this would be the point that you would want to pause it before you would try to create the table for exercise 1. Reading up here, the key points I already highlighted. It says that 2 hours after the end of the broadcast, they had 24 views. So, that means on my ratio table, I'm going to have a 2 here because I want to know what the 1 was, but I haven't figured that out yet, so I'm just going to have a little space above it. And it is hours, so I'm going to label that side hours. And it had 24 views, so I'll put 24 over here and views right there. Then it says 1 hour after that, so 1 hour after 2 hours would be 3 hours. You'd have 36 views. So there are a couple ways that we could fill in our ratio table. First, let's see what they're asking us to do. It tells us to create a table to determine how many views the website probably had 1 hour after the broadcast. So we're looking at 1 hour, which means we're going to scale down from 2. And it also wants to know, it'll be based on how many views it had with the 2 and 3 hours at the end of the broadcast, which are given up here. Using this relationship, predict how many views the website will have 4, 5, and 6 hours after the end of the broadcast. So they're wanting us to scale down to a 1 and up to 4, 5, 6 on the hour side. When I look at my hour side, I'm already going 2, 3. So that means I'm counting by ones. And I could even look at that by seeing the additive is 1. And so that just means I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I need to figure out how many views there are. So I could look and see what the additive is between 24 and 36. Or I could see what is my multiplicative. I say look for the additive. We can do both so that you can kind of see how you would do that. But 24 to 36, to find that additive, you take your 36 minus 24. 3 minus 2 is 1, 6 minus 4 is 2, so my additive is 12. So if I'm going to scale up, I just keep adding 12. 36 plus 12 is 48. 48 plus 12 is 60. And 60 plus 12 is 72. And since scaling up, we add, scaling down, we'd have to subtract, and 24 minus 12 would be 12. Now, if you wanted to find the additive, what you would do is you would actually take the views, or take what is our y, divided by what we would label our x. But it has to be in that same ratio. So our multiplicative also known as a constant, you take y divided by x, and that gives you your constant. In this case, we had 2 to 24. So with the ratio 2 to 24, we would take, that kind of looks confusing written that way, so I'm going to move it over so that you don't mistake that for 2 divided by 24. So I'm going to label it the ratio 2 to 24. I would take 24 divided by 2, which is y. 24 is on the y side, divided by 2, 2 is on the x side, and I would get a constant of 12. or a multiplicative of 12. 1 times 12 is 12, 2 times 12 is 24, 3 times 12 is 36, 4 times 12 is 48, 5 times 12 is 60, 6 times 72 is, or 6 times 12 is 72. Now we can answer all those questions. Both of these ways would have worked for you to find it. I did both of them, just that whichever way you chose to do it would be represented on this table. I don't mind which way, both ways are correct. Now I can answer the questions. So the question is, using the relationship, predict how many views the website will have 4, 5, and 6 hours after. So we need to answer that question. And lastly, it also asks us about 1 hour. So we want to make sure that we answer for those 4 ratios that we found on the table. And you could write them as ratios or in sentences. I'm going to write them as one long sentence. So after 1 hour, there were 12 views. On the website. And then 4 hours after the broadcasting. And I'm just looking at my ratio, 4 to 48. There were 48 views on the website. 5 hours after, there were 60 views. And lastly, 6 hours after, there were 72 views. So there's that. Again, please pause so that you can write everything down on your paper. Do not keep watching it if you haven't been able to write all of that down. I'm going to move on, but that doesn't mean you have to move on quite yet. Exercise 2 asks, what is the constant number that makes these ratios equivalent? So like I showed you above, your constant is the multiplicative. Or that number you're multiplying your x by to get your y, or multiplying the first number to get the second number. So in order to do that, you always take the y divided by the x, gives you your constant. And for this case, we took 24 divided by 2, which gave us 12, which means the constant equals 12. Now it asks us to use an equation to represent the relationship between the number of views, which they want us to use a V, the website received, and the number of hours after this morning's news broadcast. So first, I want to take these two pieces and write them in the form of the order the ratios fall in on the table. So looking at the table above, hours came first. So I can move this down in case you're not looking at yours. We had hours first, which means in my equation, the ratio is going to start with H to V, views. Based off of the way I showed you to label them X and Y, that would mean that my hours is my X and my views is my Y. If you want more room, all you need to do is just write it further down. So you could write it X to Y would be hours to views, just like that. And now we can actually use our formula that you were given before, which is that your Y is equal to the value of Y times our X. So my y, looking here, my y is v, or views, so it's v equals my value of y, which is views, and so that means I go back up here. My views is 12 over 1, which is a 12. So my value of y is 12 times my x, which was hours. Now, what I want you to notice is that 12 was the value of y. 12 was also the multiplicative or the constant. So when you're creating the formula, you're actually using the constant or the multiplicative because it is the value of y. So once you find this number, you're able to say, okay, that's going to be the number being used in the equation. If you need to go back to the ratio table and find the value of y to write it, go ahead and do that. But I want you to know that that's the same as finding the constant, because whatever our constant is the value of y. The next page, it has us take it a step further. It says, using the table created in exercise 1, identify sets of ordered pairs that can be graphed. And this is the easiest part of this unit, is that all you're doing is taking the numbers on the ratio table and writing them as ordered pairs. So the first ratio was a 1 to 2, a 1 to 12, which would be the ordered pair 1, 12. The next one was a 2 to 24, so that would be 224, written just like that. And then we had a 336, which is a 336 like that, a 4 to 48, and a 5 to 60, and a 6 to 72, which would be written just like that. So there we go. Those are all the ordered pairs that came from it. Now down here, you're going to use those ordered pairs to create a graph. Now, all the x's will be on the bottom, all the y's will be on the top. But first, we need to label our graph before we do that. So we have our x-axis here. We then label our y-axis up here. And we label what our x's were. So the x's were the first one, the first number in the ratio, which were our hours. And then we have to label the other side, which was views on the website. And this was actually hours after the broadcast. So we can be even more specific on what this all means. So our first point, our x's are the hours were counted by 1. So I'm going to just skip 1 so my numbers don't get too small. 1, skip 1. 2, skip a line. 3, skip a line. 4, skip a line. 5, skip a line. 6. Now, again, like I said on the lesson before, it's really important that you make those lines right, or the numbers right in line with the line the number is associated with. So my 2 and my 1, all of them are right on a line, so I know which line I'm looking to see when it crosses. My y's, or the number of views, went by 12, so that's what I'm going to count by for these. So I'm, again, skipping 1, 12. Skipping 1, you get 24, you get 36, you get 48, 60, and 72. And again, they are right in line with the lines they are associated with. And now all I'm going to do is see where these intersect with their ordered pairs. And my 1 and 12 intersect right there. My 2 and 24 intersect right there. And again, I'm going from the number to the number. I'm not just drawing lines on the lines that converge. I'm actually looking at where my 1 is, seeing where it matches where the 12 is. My 2 and my 24. Then my 3 goes with the 36 right there. They hit each other. My 4 and my 48 hit each other right there. I have my 60 and my 5 and my 72 and my 6. Now I just need to draw my points where they hit each other. So I have a point right here, right there. And again, these are right on corners where two lines converge. So they aren't in an empty space, they're where lines converge, or where they cross each other. And then I start at my origin. You could even label it origin so you remember 0, 0, where it begins is right there. And then you draw your line for where they cross each other. And that is your graph. Now, the next one is going to ask you, and this is going to be more like the test you'll have on Wednesday. It asks you to predict how many views the website will have after 12 hours. So you're going to have to use a couple models or diagrams to demonstrate that. And it says 2 representations. So you could use the equation, you could use the graph, you could use the table, or a double number line. All of those work. So I'm going to first use my my ratio table, because I think it's easiest to count there. And my ratio they gave me in the problem was 2 to 12. So this was hours after and number of views. Luckily, 12 hours, I can count by 2s to get to my 12 hours. If you wanted to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you can. And I just realized I used the wrong number of views, which is 24. You'll have to fix that, and I'm sorry. So we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then count it by 24s, 24, 48. And if you can't do this in your head, feel free to write it out over here or use a calculator, whatever helps you. So you could take 48 plus 24, that's a 12, carrier 1, 72. And then we have plus 24 again, that's a 6 and a 9, so that'd be an 8 and 96. Plus 24 again, 10, carrier 1, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's 120. And you have plus 24 again, and that's 144. So right here gives me the answer to the question that after 12 hours, there should be 144 views. Instead of skip counting, you also could have used your multiplicative and just taken 12 times 12 to get that. So I'm actually going to show you on the using an equation. So using that equation, you found before that your hours, no, it was views, equaled 12 times the hours. Now, right here, it tells me that my hours equals 12. So I'm going to rewrite it for views equals 12 times 12. And all I did was instead of writing H, I wrote the 12 because my H equaled 12. And that gave me V equals 144, which again would tell me that there would be 144 views after, or 12 hours after the broadcast. And so I'm just going to write that answer in. There would be 144 views, 12 hours after the broadcast. If you chose to do a double number line, you could use, all it would be like your ratio table that I just did on its side. So you'd start 0, 0, and then do the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, drawing your line, labeling it 0, 0, and hours and views, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and again 24, 48, 72, 96, 120, 144, and then you'd show right here is your answer.